Hello, and thank you for joining. This is part 3 of our multi-part series all about vector search indexes and RAG pipelines in Databricks. If you haven't seen the first two videos, please go back. The links are in the description below. They will be very helpful for you as you work through this video. And even if you have watched the first two videos, I just wanted to do a very quick recap of what we've done up to this point so that we can build on it better. We started off by creating a table with information about products. These are shoe products. So we have the ID, the name of the product, and text with a description of the product. From there, we built a vector search index where we embedded this text column, and we saved those results in this vector search index. And if we want to look at the sample data, you can see here, these are the text embeddings right here. From there, we ran some very simple searches against our vector search index. So let me go back to that notebook. And I'm not going to go through all the cells above, but basically we were able to run queries against our vector search store, our vector store, and get the most relevant results here. That was the first video, just building the vector search index and running simple queries against it. Then we took it one step further and created a RAG pipeline where we used the search results as context and plugged that context into a large language model. And that was in this notebook. So let me go there real quick. And if you remember, this notebook was simply a series of functions that were used to build our RAG pipeline that we strung together at the end to have a final RAG pipeline. So I'm going to review this a little bit since this is actually what we'll be using to build our Databricks app. We're just basically going to be adding an interface to this RAG pipeline through a Databricks app. So we have our retrieve products function, which is a search against the vector store that we just talked about. Then we have format context, which basically just formats the result from the function above so that we can plug it into a LLM prompt. We build our prompt. That's where we pass in the context that we just talked about. That's where we also pass in the user query, and we give some instructions to the LLM. Then we have our run LLM function. We define which model we are using, which in this case is a llama model, but it could be a different model if you choose. But keep in mind that this message variable will look a little different if you choose a different model. Then finally we have this RAG answer function, which strings together all of the functions that we just talked about and returns the answer as well as the context. And then we ran a quick test. We said what are the most comfortable shoes, and we printed the answer that the LLM gives us. So now, like I said, we are basically just going to copy and paste into our app code and then give this pipeline an interface. So how do we do that? Well, we start off by going to Databricks Apps. And I do have a video on the basics and getting started with Databricks Apps. So if you're not familiar with apps, please be sure to check that out. Link to that is also in the comments below. But in order to get to apps, you go to, let me show you that again, you go to compute, and then you go to apps, and then what I did is I just go create app. And what I did is I chose to use the Streamlit framework. And I simply clicked Streamlit Hello World app, gave it a name, and clicked install. Now I already have my app set up because it does take a few minutes for it to provision. And so I'm going to go back and show you the app that I've created. But that's literally all I did. Once you do that, you can follow along to copy the way this app looks. So after creating the app, it will look something like this. It should say running. To see the source code for your app, click on this link right here. If you want a sneak peek to what this app is going to look like, here it is. We basically just have a text input field where we ask the question and then a button that will call our RAG pipeline and generate an answer below. So let's jump into the code. Click on this. It'll open up your source code. And then you can see we have app.py, app.yaml, and requirements.txt. We're going to be using app.py and requirements.txt. Changes for requirements.txt are very minimal. we're just going to add one additional package. And this is it right here. So these top two come by default, but this Databricks vector search one does not. So be sure to add this line number 3 in there. And then jumping into app.py, this is where the rest of the code will be. So this is really simple, straightforward. I basically just copied and pasted everything from that RAG pipeline notebook that I just showed you into here. There's one subtle difference when we create this VSC variable, the vector search client. We have to add our workspace URL and add our personal access token. I just commented mine out, but you will add in your own personal access tokens here. So then after that, everything is exactly the same. It's all just copied and pasted from that notebook, like I said. As you can see, we have our retrieve products function, format context function, our build prompt function, all exactly the same, no changes. We define our model, we have our run LLM function, and we have our RAG answer function that strings them all together. Then we have a simple Streamlit interface. We add a title. This is where that text input field is. It tells us we can ask a question about shoes. And then we have our button that will, when clicked, create a spinner that says retrieving context and generating answer. And then it will call this RAG answer function and return the answer along with the context. And we are just writing out the answer. So let's give it a try. I have these sample questions up here, so I'm just going to copy and paste that one, go into our app, and paste that question. And now, so what are the best shoes for running? Click get answer. You can see that it tells us it's retrieving the context and generating an answer, and there you go. Based on the provided product information, the best shoes for running would be either mountain grip, blah, blah, blah. Now let's try one more question for fun. What are the most comfortable shoes? These are the same questions we asked in the previous video. And get answer. There you go. The Comfort Walk Pro shoes are described as comfortable walking shoes, blah, blah, blah. So you can see here that we basically just took the notebook for the RAG pipeline that we talked about in our last video and created an interface that allows us to plug in our question and call that RAG pipeline and then get a generated answer. Obviously, this answer could be formatted a lot better. If you want to play with the prompt, then I'm sure you could get it to look a lot better than this. But I just wanted to show you the very basic setup for creating that RAG pipeline and adding an interface for it using a Databricks app. Hopefully this was helpful. The code for this app is linked in the description below in my GitHub repository, so feel free to use that. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I will be sure to get back to you. If this was helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more future content. Thank you.